Choosing Life by ginnyrules27. Chapter 47. Ben shook his head in amusement as he looked at the collection of guys around him. They had stuck to their word and set up a club for the parents of magical children who didn't have powers themselves. Or the Parents Without Powers Club, to keep it short. "I swear, Uma nearly bust her gut laughing when she heard what happened to the kitchen after she got home," Harry said, leaning over the sofa to hand Ben a bottle of water. He hadn't asked for a bottle of water, but the look on Harry's face indicated there would be better for Ben to just take the water bottle and not argue. "At least you got it resolved," Carlos said. "True. What about you, Deville? Did you get that stuffed toy magic back to normal?" Carlos sighed. "No, we didn't. Thankfully, Fairy Godmother thought the dog was cute, so adopted her for us." "Carlos, aren't you the dog guy?" Gil asked. "I am, but one dog and one cat are more than I can handle." Gil chuckled as he sat down next to Ben. "What about you, Ben? Did you get Effie to de-transform?" "I don't think that's a word, but yeah," Ben nodded. "The problem is, now every time she has a tantrum, she transforms. And Reese still has his beast roars, though apparently we also learned he can transform as well." "Oh?" Harry asked. Ben chuckled. "Yep, Reese can transform into a Cerberus puppy. Mel and I found out when we found Nyx licking the top of one of his heads. We think she was trying to groom him." "Aw, tell me there are pictures," Akio said with a smile. "With my mother-in-law being who she is, of course there are pictures. I'll show them to you later," Ben said with a small chuckle. "And what about you? Has Emily drowned you in snow like you said when she called?" "No." Akio shook his head, though an amused smile could be seen on his lips. "Though I did make Emily promise to use her powers. I don't want her to end up like Aunt Elsa, afraid to use them and unable to control them. I love my daughter, and I don't want to see her hurt." "Spoken like a true papa." Harry nodded, gently patting Akio on the shoulder. "Hey, do you think we should bring Philip Jr. into these meetings?" "I feel I should ask why, but I'm afraid of what Harry's going to say if I do." Carlos spoke up. Harry shook his head. "I mean, he's a parent without powers, just as much as we are. Plus, his kids are family for all of us except Deville. It seems almost cruel not to invite him." "Good idea. I'll text him an invite." Akio nodded. "But does anyone have any pressing business they need to discuss, or are we just going on our usual rants like we do when we're on the phone?" Gil chuckled. "Honestly, I feel so out of place here. I have no rants compared to you guys. I'm not even panicking every month or so." "Gil, you've had more time to adjust to the idea of magical kids. Unlike us," Carlos said. "I'm pretty sure you all have one kid with the exception of Ben." Gil said. "Yep, so you say." Carlos shook his head. "Deville, you just had your daughter," Harry said. "Right? Didn't you and your lass have another child and we all missed the invite to celebrate the birth?" Carlos chuckled. "Bit behind the times, Harry. I've got a daughter and a son. Jason was born last November, so he's coming up to his first birthday." "Congrats, man!" Gil said with a grin. "Yeah, Carlos, congratulations." Ben nodded. "Why didn't you mention it? You know Mal and I would have been happy to throw Jane a baby shower, especially since you guys all did so much when Mal was pregnant with the twins." "Jane didn't want to put more work on your plates. Plus, Mal was busy getting Jay up to speed in regards to being her advisor, and we were trying to get Caroline to get used to the idea of having a little brother," Carlos explained. Which, come to think of it, that might have been one of the reasons why Caroline might have turned her toy into a real dog. "Ah, let me guess. The little lass was getting jealous her little brother was getting all the attention," Harry said. "I mean, I'm just guessing," Carlos told him. "But it's a reasonable assumption, right, Gil? You've got more older siblings than anyone here, so you know what I'm talking about." "Huh? Oh, yeah," Gil nodded. Had he not known about the rocky relationship between Harry and CJ when they were kids, Gil might have asked Carlos why he didn't just ask Harry. But while Gil might not have been the sharpest dagger in the set, he was still smart enough to not want to hurt Harry by picking at that old scab. How are your sisters doing? Harry asked. Well, George is dating Rick and Gillian's apparently spending time at Strat's personal training gym. Wait, hold up, Harry said. 1. Strat is actually running his own business in Oridon, and 2. You're okay with one of your sisters being around a former fanatic of Freddy's? Gil shrugged. She's my older sister, Harry. I might not feel entirely comfortable with it, but I can't control her. Piper's already given Strat the shovel talk, so I don't think Strat will try anything. Plus, I think Strat's turned over a new leaf since he arrived here. Being pummeled to an inch of your life would do that to somebody. Harry nodded. I forget. Do we like Strat? Akio whispered to Ben. At this point, I find it wise to just follow Harry's lead on who to not like and like from the aisle. Ben whispered back. When unless he likes or dislikes counteracts with who Mal likes or dislikes. Always smart to go with who Mal likes. Akio nodded. I think we all know that. Harry snorted, and Akio flushed slightly as he realised he hadn't whispered that last comment. Carlos shrugged. I mean, that's just common sense, right? Mal can turn into a dragon. Therefore, it is safer to like who she likes. Everyone chuckled at that. Meanwhile, over in El and Akio's castle, there was another meeting happening. Only these meeting attendees were less prone to freaking out as their counterparts were. So, tell me again, how much did Akio freak out? Emma asked as she munched on some chips. Probably about as much as Carlos, I'm guessing, Jane said with a fond smile. And Ben, Mal nodded. I know I've had to call Mum after the 4th or 5th dive Ben had to do to avoid Effie going after his buttons. Emma shook her head. Honestly, I had to chuckle when Grandfather told me about how much Harry was freaking out. I mean, we grew up on the Isle. We saw stranger things than a toddler flooding a kitchen. Plus, he had to expect that Helena would have some magic. To be fair to Harry, there's expecting it and then there's living through it, Mal said. After all, I'm sure Ben expected the twins to have some magic, but expecting it is a lot different than a toddler dragon dive-bombing you because she wants the shiny things on your shirt. That is a very vivid image, I'm not gonna lie, Emma chuckled. So, how's everyone been? Any more freakouts? Honestly, we've been so busy preparing for Jason's first birthday that Carlos thinks that's the reason why Caroline had her magic outburst in the first place, Jane said. Every woman in the room looked over at her. Jane? Who's Jason? Macaria asked. My son? You don't have a son, Elle told her. Jane shook her head. I guess we forgot to tell you. So apparently there was a bit of time I didn't know I was pregnant last year. When did you find out? Elle asked. When I went into labour, Jane said. Jason Diego DeVille was thankfully born perfectly healthy last November. Mal smiled softly. You used Carlos's cousin's name as Jason's middle name? Of course, Jane nodded. Caroline is practically named after both of my parents. It wouldn't be fair if I just insisted both our kids had names from my side of the family. Really, as long as you don't name a kid after Cruella, I think Carlos won't mind. Mal said. Oh, trust me, that won't be a possibility. Jane told her. But what about you, Mal? Any thoughts about more kids? Mal chuckled. Oh, no. Not until the twins are at least 5. With Effie and Reese both having transformations and magical flare-ups, it wouldn't be fair to bring a baby into the mix. I think Harry would be in favour of that for us, Emma said with a chuckle of her own. But, waiting's not exactly in the cards. What do you mean? What do you mean? Macaria asked, but Mal gasped in realisation. You're pregnant again? Emma nodded. Should have known you'd get it first, cuz. I mean, we've only known each other practically our whole lives. Why wouldn't I get it first? Mal said with a small smile before leaning over and giving Uma a hug. Congrats, cuz. Any idea about the due date? The doctor says we're looking at an August due date, Uma said, and Mal nodded, picking up what wasn't being said. At least, this way, Harry could avoid any unpleasant memories with his son or daughter being born on one of the warmer months. How's Harriet doing, by the way? Mal asked, opting to change the subject. She's doing well. Same with Sammy, Uma said, picking up on Mal's subject change even as the others in the group continued to give their congratulations. They're still trying to have a kid, but Harry said they're getting a bit more hopeful with my sister having her daughter.
Oh, congratulations to your sister,
Jane exclaimed with a smile. Thanks, Jane, Uma smiled.
Celia's a bit young to have kids, isn't she?
Elle asked, tilting her head.
Mal chuckled. Mum brain's starting to impact you, cuz. Remember, Uma's got an older sister too. And yeah, Uma, congrats to Freddie. I'm sure she and Ali are thrilled.
Uma nodded. They really are. Felicity's the light of both of their lives.
And how's Celia, speaking of her?
Macaria asked. She is doing well, Uma said. She's been spending more time with one of the Hun boys. All Celia told me is that his name is Cyrus before telling me that we're off to the Isle, and therefore I don't need to poke my nose into her dating life.
Doesn't she know that's the duty of an older sister, to poke their nose into their siblings' dating lives? Elle asked with a small chuckle. How often do you get to do that, though, considering Melody's practically married to Phil? Mal asked. I can still prod about when she thinks Frail's going to ask for Dad's permission. Elle said, though I will say, considering they both have kids together, I think Dad won't mind if Phil doesn't ask permission. It's how they're all raised, though, Macaria said. And I think it rubbed off on Gil, at least. You know, he asked Mum and Dad for permission to marry me before he proposed.
Homer snorted. Harry did the same thing, only with Grandfather and Uncle Hades, since he couldn't ask my dad.
Ah, that's sweet, Elle said with a small smile. Why am I not surprised the cousin raised royal finds that sweet? Mal said, shaking her head. Elle shrugged. It's how we were all raised, as Macaria said. Not asking would probably involve entering into a marriage with angry in-laws. Plus, in Gil's case, it's probably better to not anger the gods. That is an excellent point, Mal nodded. Yeah, don't know why that didn't occur to me before. Macaria said, shaking her head.
The women all chuckled before Mal paused and pulled out her phone. You okay? Uma asked.
Oh, yeah, just a text from Ryan. Mal shrugged. He wants me to ask Dad if he could get him with a gem question.
Why would Ryan need to ask a gem question? Uma asked.
Who's Ryan? Mal asked.
CJ's boyfriend, Uma told her before pausing. Wait. No, he's not.
I think he might be, cuz. Mal nodded. Jane shook her head. For those of us who can't read minds. Okay, 2-Kid Jane gets sarcastic at times. Mal chuckled. But think about it. What's my dad's title? God of the Dead? Well, yes, but what's his other title?
Macaria, Jane, and Elle's eyes went wide as they all realised what Mal was saying.
He's the god of wealth, or god of gems, depending on who you ask, Macaria said with a small hop of excitement. Does that mean? I think it does, Mal nodded. Looks like Ryan's ready to propose.
Oh, gods! It's hard to believe CJ and Ryan are old enough to get married, Uma said, shaking her head. I still remember them as the under-15s who would argue they should be able to join in on face-offs. And then they'd sneak out and join anyway.
I almost wonder how he's going to propose, Jane said with a small smile. She had met Ryan during her duties shadowing her mother as performing her duties as headmistress of Oradon Prep. He had applied for and been hired on as a member of the Raw team's coaching staff. Since then, Jane and Ryan had become close work friends. She had had an idea that Ryan was looking to get CJ something, considering Ryan had been submitting more and more requests for overtime. Does he have an idea for the ring? Elle asked, pulling Jane out of her thoughts. Not that he said in the text, but I'm sure that'll be something he tells Dad, Mel said. I remember one time when Henry stopped by the house one time because it was coming up to his and Claudine's anniversary, and he wanted to give her a proper engagement ring for her to wear rather than to wear his old medallion. Dad grilled him for what was probably an hour about what design Henry wanted the ring to be.
What did Henry say? Emma asked.
He said all he wanted was for the ring to be worthy of Claudine, Mel said with a small smile.
As sappy and Henry-like as that is, you know the vagueness probably drove Uncle Hades insane.
Oh, yeah, Dad had to go outside because Raya decided to join, and Dad has a no flame up around Raya policy. He doesn't want to scare her before she's old enough to know he's not scary to her. Seems reasonable. Jane nodded.
So, how many freakouts do you think the guys have had by now?
Uma asked, and everyone couldn't help but shake their heads in amusement. Something told them there were a lot more freakouts to come, for both sets of parents. And they also found they couldn't wait to see what they were like. If it involved their kids, they look forward to every second. End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed this one. Ginny, that was gorgeous. Raya's proposing! Ah!
And also, just Carlos and Jane having a surprise son.
Okay. Yeah, that's just sweet. Little Jason, that's cute. Anyway, yeah, I cannot wait for the next chapter of Truth or Fiction. I know it's taken a while and I'm not pushing you, but we're getting into one of my favourite arcs. I just want to see them reacting to Audrey and Freddie being insane. And not to mention that scene with poor Chad. I just want him to be like wearing a headset or something. And not to mention Carlos and Jane's reaction to them kissing each other. Anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that bell to get notified for whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Bye, my guys, gals, and non-binary pals. I'll see you in another video. Take care.